My name is Tom Bills. I'm number 5 son. I answered both of those. As you know, mom and dad always referred to us as numbers. Makes it easier. It's better than Wayne, Dale, Kent, Mark, Tom. Yeah. She just went to numbers. Like so many of us, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think, feel, or do something inspired or related to my father. Growing up, my mom was my best friend and confidant, and my dad was and is my hero. I'm supposed to relate a favorite memory of Dad as a tribute to him. However, there are so many, it's a near impossible task. Do I talk about how he taught me to be a man of God, a warrior, a husband, and a father all at the same time? Do I talk about how he set the example of how a farm boy from Utah, who was married at 16 and a father at 17, worked odd jobs thinning sugar beets and working at a copper mine, could rise to great heights? This farm boy from Utah rose to the rank of colonel in the greatest army in the world. He negotiated the Chemical Arms Treaty with Russia and played a key role in ridding the world of chemical weapons. He was and is the smartest man I've ever known. Do I talk about how he taught me to be a patriot and a soldier? He would pull me up to my feet when the flag went by on a 4th of July parade. He would stop the car when we were on post if the cannon sounded and retreat sounded. He would get out of the car, face the colors, and salute. He taught me how to polish my brass, polish my boots, and wear the uniform of our nation proudly. He taught me how to lead. He taught me how to care for others and lead by serving. When we lived in Virginia, he shared stories with me of his work on NATO committees and how, during the day on official business, his counterparts in Europe would give him, quote unquote, hell during the meetings. They were very hard on him. And yet at night when they went out to dinner, they would, to a man, relate to him how important the United States was and what would happen. And they had no idea what would happen to their countries if the great bastion of freedom that is this country ever fell. He taught me that our country and our founders were inspired by God, and they were great men. He taught me to revere them because the founding of this country set the stage for the restoration of the gospel. He taught me the importance of how we as U.S. soldiers swear allegiance to a document, not to a king, not to a president, but to the ideals of our Constitution, which he believed, and I believe, was inspired by God. He taught me there are great lessons in the war chapters of the Book of Mormon. Captain Moroni, Helaman, and his 2,000 stripling warriors were just a few. You've already heard of his 3 priorities: God, family, and country, in that order. His first duty was to God, for it was God who gave him everything, to include his family and his country. Thus his duty to God allowed him to create his family, not just for this life, but for eternity. And his country, founded by these inspired men seeking freedom from tyranny, must be defended because his country and our Constitution gave him his freedom to worship God and protected his family. He never wavered from these 3 priorities, yet another lesson and a memory for me. Dad and I became even closer and shared more memories after I served in combat in Iraq from 2006 to 2007. We were able to communicate on an even deeper level and share common experiences, even though his were in Vietnam and mine were in Iraq. Combat and war have many things in common, no matter where they happen. He taught me to have joy in the smallest things and activities. He sang goofy songs. He took time to play games, throw the ball around, wrestle, read stories, love nature, plant a garden, go camping, taught me how to shoot, go fishing, work on cars, build things, ride motorcycles, make everything an adventure, and how even if you're in the middle of nowhere, You are somewhere. One of my favorite one-on-one games to play with Dad was Stratego, a military strategy game. Go figure, right? Sometimes he would win and sometimes I would win. After one of our many games, he said, "I really enjoy our games together. Watching you play shows me you are always thinking. I may not know what you are thinking, but I can see the wheels turning. You are always thinking, and that is a good thing." Never forgot that. He also taught me how to call balls and strikes. One time he actually called me out on strikes in a Little League game where he was the umpire. I thought, how could you do this to me? And he said, "A strike is a strike and a ball is a ball. You being my son doesn't change that. I treated you the same way I treated everyone else." Then he bought me a hot dog and all was well. He taught me to revere and respect and love my parents by how he treated his mom and his in-laws, Ken and Roberta Silcox. He called Grandpa Silcox Sir and his mother and Grandma Silcox Ma'am. An example we all follow to this day. I guess some of my favorite memories were when I got to spend time with Dad and when it was just me. And believe me, when you're the youngest of 5 brothers and your older brother is Mark Bills, that isn't very often. My senior year in high school and my first year in college until I left on my mission, so fall of 84 to fall of 86, I was the only one left at home. It was Mom, Dad, and me. I played football at Dugway High School. When your senior class has 26 kids in it, you get to do everything. I played football, I ran track, I played in the band, I sang in the choir, and Mom and Dad came to every activity. Every game day, Dad would cook me a special breakfast of bacon and eggs so I had extra energy for the game. Mom and Dad made every game home or away, even though he was the deputy base commander and very busy. Dad was also enrolled in the Army War College, and he would have me proofread his papers. High school senior proofreading a colonel's work. We had spent hours talking at his desk about anything and everything. He shared his professional successes and disappointments and the lessons learned from both. He taught me to always be learning. Dad was a learning machine. We were home teaching companions. Even though he was the deputy base commander, he took our calling as home teachers very seriously. He would prepare the lesson with me and then let me teach the lesson. The summer of 1985, actually, back up, that spring in 1985, Grandma Bills passed away. And I learned another lesson about how to revere and take care of your mother and her business. The summer of 1985, I got a job working at Lockheed in what was called Ditto area, which was where Dad was the commanding officer. We didn't really work together, but we had the same schedule, so I felt closer to him. On Fridays, we would run 5 to 10 miles, and sometimes on Saturdays as well. And then we went to see family in Salt Lake City as often as we could. When I went to college and was in the marching band at BYU, and Sarah, we shared the honor of being a drum major. But my first year, Mom and Dad bought season tickets to BYU football just to come see me play in the band. One Saturday, the BYU Cougars were playing the Washington State Cougars. So Dad got his PhD at Washington State, okay? And so he wore a BYU sweatshirt and a Washington State hat. I said, "Dad, what are you gonna do?" He said, "No matter what happens, I'm just gonna stand up and yell, 'Go Cougars.'" And that's exactly what he did. When we played his beloved Utah State Aggies, he would wear his Aggie hat and his BYU sweater, similar to when we played the Washington State Cougars, and cheer for both teams. That tradition of being a season ticket holder for BYU football continued when he moved back to Utah after Dad retired from the Army. They spent another 2 years in the stands, coming to Provo to watch me, and at the time my new bride, play in the band. Those are some of my favorite memories. I could go on, but I'm not. Love my dad. He's still going to be my hero, and he lives on in all of us. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.